Yeah. So I've done a bunch of talks, but tonight we have a good one for a change. Uh, tonight I'm gonna be talking about what's in the sky for July. July is a great month to be observing, July and August, because we have the Milky Way. So we get some great stuff there. And so this is kind of an overview of what's in the sky in July. If you don't if you're not aware of this, is a great tool, is skymaps.com, and every month they publish a new sky map for what's in the sky for that month. Obviously, it's the same for the deep sky objects, but it's got information on the moon and the planets, which change month to month. And so you can see we have the Milky Way is prominent from north to south this time of year. And we could talk about some of the main constellations this time of year. And obviously the big one is Sagittarius, which is sometimes referred to as a teapot because it looks like a teapot. And the Milky Way kind of looks somewhat like it's coming out of the front of it as the steam coming out of the teapot. We also have
PowerPoint feature with this little circle that hovers over and highlights.
well, I've made it. I put it in there.
Oh, it's very good.
Yeah. So if you, I've become like a PowerPoint expert because of Astley. If any, I should give a talk about using PowerPoint. And then another prominent constellation is Scorpius, which even among various cultures have called this the Scorpion constellation because of its familiarity or look of a scorpion's tail. And one of my favorite objects in the sky is this is the star cluster right at the bottom of the tail, 6231. It only gets about, I think, about 3 or 4 degrees above the horizon. If you get a chance to look at it, it's really a magnificent and beautiful star cluster. And I wish I was a little bit further south to get a better view of it. No, it's an open cluster. And it's just a very nice looking open cluster. The other big prominent part of the sky, this is more towards the zenith, we have the summer triangle in the sky. And that's these 3 points, which many of you might know, but some of you might, if you're new to observing, you might not, but it's Deneb, Vega, and Altair, which represents the summer triangle. And in it, we also have the summer cross, which is this asterism here. Another prominent feature in the sky is Hercules. Actually, I just learned that this part of Hercules is also called the capstone asterism because it kind of looks like the capstone of a stone arch. And sometimes M13, the Hercules cluster, is referred to as the capstone cluster. And if you're out in dark skies or even not so dark skies, you could catch M13 in a scope or in binoculars. It's a very bright object.
Also notice that the head of Draco, the dragon, looks very familiar to it. It's just above it. So if you're trying to find Hercules, Draco's head points to it.
Where's Draco?
Right on top, just top of it. No tanning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes I have trouble looking, spotting Hercules right away. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I usually find it from devotees.
Okay.
And then we have Corona Borealis, and Corona being crown and Borealis being north, like Northern Lights, Aurora Borealis.
The sign of the over there.
We have a nova in
Yeah, oh, they say.
There's a recurring, there's a potential recurring. No,
oh, interesting. I have to look that up.
Yeah, normally when I'm doing a talk or whatever, sky tour out, and they usually say, so, you know, devotees looks like an ice cream cone. right? And what we do, we smile,
Uh-huh.
right? Reality, we've done, we go, you know.
Scoop of ice cream that fell off the top.
Well, you can do that one, but I like it. So,
Well, Corona is Crown, this is Northern Crown, but actually we take a step back a little bit. We have Corona Australis on the bottom here, which is the Southern Crown. Actually, I don't know if I've ever taken the time to actually look at Corona Australis. I kind of feel like I should next time I'm out. Oops, wait, wrong direction.
don't do it. When we were in Florida a couple of years ago on the cruise, for the Alcon convention. You're looking at the sky, it was actually awesome to see Scorpius. Oh,
I'm sure, I'm sure. So July, the new moon was July 5th, and we haven't had really any good skies since then, so we kind of missed out on a lot of the first part of July. And then July 20th is the full moon. So the next really opportunity to observe without the moon will really start on July 25th. And this is from what's the program this is called again? I forget the name of it, but it's really good. And you could see here that on July 25th, we have astro twilight at 10:07 p.m. So basically around 10 o'clock, it'll be fully dark. And the next moonrise is 10:49. So you basically have a solid hour of dark skies if you wanted to observe starting on the 25th. And then by July 31st, astro twilight is 9:57. And you have a moonrise at 2:33. So you have basically a good evening, a full evening by July 31st of observing without the moon. So basically the end of the month is the time to observe. So that's the time we have to hope for clear skies. And you can see these are the objects in that kind of like are prominent in the heart of the Milky Way in Sagittarius. And you could see that their transit times on July 26th are around 10:30 to about 11 o'clock. So this is a good time to be observing the Milky Way area. And this is from the Sky and Telescope Pocket Atlas. And this is kind of the depiction of the main part of the Milky Way. And we'll go through this in a little bit more detail here. So this again is Sagittarius. So when I'm observing this time of year, and I was just out in upstate New York in the Hillsdale area, which is near the Berkshires, visiting my sister. And this was about a month or two ago. And the Milky Way rose around the moon set around 2 a.m. And I went out around 2 a.m. to observe basically Sagittarius area of the sky. And it was basically about 1 hour after transit is when I got it, is when the moon set. And so I just had my binoculars, and the way I usually go about observing this part of the sky is I usually start from bottom up. And so I start with M7, which is a great, and actually the next set of objects are really just binocular objects. You just need a good pair of, I have 15x70 binoculars, and you can really get a nice view with just those, with just a good pair of binoculars. So I start with M7, then work my way to M6 here, which are really great objects to look at. Then I usually move to the Lagoon Nebula and the Trifid Nebula. And even with just binoculars, you don't need a high-powered scope. You could see nebulosity for the Lagoon Nebula.
It's dark.
Yeah, actually, I brought my SQM meter, and it was reading about 21.0, 21.1, which is not, it's not Cherry Springs, but it's It's a lot better than most places around here.
What would somewhere around here be?
To get 21 or 21.1, the only place I found that in Orient Point and Montauk. I've gotten 21.1 in Orient, I've gotten 21.0 in Montauk. Custer is usually about 20.6. Hampton Bays is about 20.6. I think Robert Moses is about 19.6. So
Higher the number of darker?
yeah. I think Cherry Springs is like 21.8, 8-ish around there. It's only about $120 and you can buy the toy. It's a pretty neat toy. Especially if you're traveling to like darker sites and you want to kind of test the conditions there.
All next year's convention, outcome, it's Bryce Canyon.
What's Alcon? What is Alcon?
The Astronomical League convention is the group that makes the reflection.
Oh, okay.
So,
I believe so.
yeah, so that's the super dark. So if you want to go see dark sky, you'll be in the conventions next year.
Where's it? Oh, that's probably, where's Bryce Cannon?
From Utah.
I said probably have a lot of clear skies. It's probably like desert like out there.
If you fly into Las Vegas, it's probably 4 hours.
So you guarantee clear skies and dark skies.
Dark City, beautiful, glorious outdoor. That next year's convention, everybody's.
What month is that in?
July.
July, okay.
It'd be pretty warm there.
Good to know, good to know. So the other object, M22, is a prominent globular cluster, one of the larger ones out there. And then I continue to work my way up. You have, actually, usually I hit the object in the middle here, which is the M24 star cloud. And it's a really fantastic object, and it kind of fits very nicely into a wide field set of binoculars, or even just fits into my 15 by 70 binoculars. And it kind of has that shape when you look at it. And it's really a fantastic object. And then right to each side of it are prominent star clusters, M23 and M25. And each one, M23 and M25, are very different looking open star clusters, because M23, I think it is, looks like very dense and looks almost cloud-like, whereas M25, the stars are much farther and more sparsely dispersed.
Are you taking pictures through your binoculars or just observing them?
Just observing.
And with a tripod, because on a 15 by 70 is that fairly heavy?
Yeah, I think, yeah, except for like really small binoculars, you want a tripod, because you can't help having your hand shake a little bit. And a tripod really helps a lot.
What does the star cloud look like? I mean, I'm looking on that. What does it look like through binoculars?
Looks awesome. It looks,
That was a picture.
Is it like the Orion Nebula type of like?
well, it's not like a cloud. It's interesting because it has this shape. If you see, well, let me, you can kind of see the outline. You can't see my cursor on here, but you can see a little bit of an outline that is shown. And it just looks like a tight ring, a tight grouping of stars, all kind of uniform in this area. And it's just a pretty neat view. They call it a star cloud. It's really a star cluster, but it's so wide, I guess they call it a cloud.
What happens in the white spot?
That's a dark nebula. So in the sky in telescope atlas, dark nebula are shown as white objects. And there are some dark objects that you could see with binoculars, and you know, sometimes in dark enough skies you could see that that layer of darkness. And then I usually hit, going further up, next step up is the Omega Nebula, which is also sometimes called the Swan Nebula. And that's actually one of the brightest nebulas that I think are out there. Because every time I've seen it, it's really prominent and it really stands out. And if you're using a telescope and you have an O3 filter or even just a regular nebula filter, it's really prominent. With my 14-inch Dob and O3 filter, it almost looks like a picture. Almost, it's really, you can see a lot of detail. And then moving further up, you have the Eagle Nebula, which is also like, includes the, if you see pictures of it, the famous pillars of creation from the Hubble telescope. And continuing further up, another one of my favorite objects in the sky as far as star clusters go, a beautiful star cluster is M11, which is also called the Duck Nebula. And it's hard to see, but the way I usually find it is there's like a J pattern of stars. And you can find a J pattern in your binoculars or a finder scope, and that kind of leads you to M11.
Looks like the globule. If you're looking at it.
Yeah, it's very tight, and there's just something just really nice about it. And then I usually, it's hard to really spot in a telescope, in binoculars, but in a telescope, I usually try to find M26, which is on the other side of the J. And then if we go further up into the sky, beyond the Sagittarius and area, now we're going towards the Summer Triangle area. This object here, M71 in Sagitta, is a nice object to find. Sagitta is kind of an interesting asterism to look for, and it's easy to spot, and it's easy to find M78 in between the two bright stars there. And then we also have Hollander 399, which is also the coat hanger asterism, which is fun to spot.
Which is good.
Yeah, you need binoculars for that. You can't see that with a telescope. That's a wide field object. And then I like to take a look at Albireo, which is double star, beautiful blue and orange star, binary. Is it a binary or just a debate?
Scientifically, if it is.
I'm
Not sure.
I didn't think it was true bar. I thought it was that it's-
They're still not decided.
But it's a double, looks two stars close together. I'm not sure what the spacing is, but it's a fun object.
Can't see anything else, you can see that.
Yes, that's true. And then you have the Dumbbell Nebula, another very bright nebula that's fun to spot and easy to see. And then if you're in dark skies and you have a good sized telescope, the Veil Nebula is also fun to find. You really need a nebula filter or an O3 filter to see it. I don't think I've ever seen it without the filter. Maybe just a subtle touch of it without the filter, but with the filter, it's pretty easy to spot, and it's really fun. It's gigantic. When you see it, even in your lowest magnification eyepiece, or largest millimeter, largest focal length eyepiece, the widest field, it's still big. You still have to move your scope. I have to move my scope around just to get it all in. And there's lots of different parts to it, so that's a really fun object. So I've seen that a couple of times from like Orient Point. And then we have the Ring Nebula, another very bright nebula, which is also easy to spot if you see Vega. You find Sulafat and Shaliak stars, and right in between them is the Ring Nebula. But you have to kind of it takes it takes high magnification to see it because it's a very small object. I remember the first time I was looking for it, and I was on kind of like a wide field eyepiece, and I'm like, how come I'm not spotting it? But when I got when I zoomed in a little bit, it was right there. Also near Vega, you have Epsilon 1 and Epsilon 2, which is the double. So if there are two stars next to each other, but if you zoom in on each of those stars are doubles. So those are fun to look at. And then nearby that, is T Lyra, which is a carbon star. If you haven't looked for carbon stars, you should, next time you're out observing, find a couple of carbon stars. They're super bright red. They're really fun to look at. There's kind of a range of redness in the carbon stars, and some are redder than others, but they're really nice to look at. They're very prominently red, and it's more, and they don't. It's like more of a subtle red than your normal like Betelgeuse or so many other red stars out there. And this again is Hercules, and we have M13, and that's a very bright object, which is fun for binoculars and for scopes, easy to find and fun to look at. Higher above that, a little bit in the middle of nowhere land is M92. I don't think I've hunted that down in a while, but when you're not near any bright prominent stars, it could take a little bit of effort to find. And then even though this time of year is popular for globular clusters, open clusters, and nebula, there's also some galaxies to catch as well. M81, M82 are still prominent in the sky in the early evening, and so is M51, M94 are bright galaxies. Actually, the last time I was out observing that night when I was up at 2 a.m., I took my binoculars onto M51. And M51, if you look at the sky chart, there are it's in the middle of three different stars, middle of a triangle of three stars. And the binoculars, you can see all three stars very prominently, and there's a little faint fuzzy right where M51 should be. And it's kind of a neat view to see it in binoculars. That's 15 by 70. And so that's early evening. What's that?
Obviously on a tripod.
Yeah. I don't use I've got like a 8 by 30 small binoculars, which I hold, but if I'm not, other than that, I've got my binoculars on a tripod. So this is early evening. And then late evening around this time of year, so like something you could check out right before you kind of close shop, maybe at around 12 o'clock at night if you start like around 10. M31 and M33 will be up and about. Not that high, but high enough. Actually, the last time I was out, so I think the last thing I looked at around 3 a.m. was I caught M31 on my binoculars, and looking around a little bit, I stumbled on M33 as like a dull circle of faint fuzziness. And also in this area, a little bit further back, is a double cluster, which is also a great binocular object.
And these are dark
Well, M33 is going to be tough unless you're in dark skies, but M31 you could probably catch a little bit of it. M51. Well, maybe at Robert Moses, maybe catch M51, maybe, I don't know.
Let's try and.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And planets for July. Unfortunately, we won't be getting any great pictures for another couple of months.
My mount's coming back from Celestron for repair.
Okay, so you're not missing anything because there are no planets in the sky. The first planet that kind of comes up is Saturn, which transits around 3:49, 4 o'clock in the morning. At 12 a.m., let's say that's the last thing you want. Let's say you're packing in around 12, you could still catch Saturn at about 20 degrees altitude. So it's there to take a quick look, but it's not very high in the sky. And Mars doesn't transit till 8:37 a.m. and Jupiter not till about 9:15-ish. So we've got a few months before we start getting planets in the night sky. And on July 13th, I don't know if we're going to have clear skies, but we're going to have a lunar occultation of Spica. Spica is a pretty bright star. And it's going to occur about 11:25 a.m. It's going to be very low on the horizon. It's going to only be about an 8-degree altitude, and it's getting looking west.
Well, we're gonna see the star.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah,
Never
that's,
seen the end.
oh, really? Oh, it's going to be set before it. Yeah, so, and then, this is from, my, ephemeris on my phone. So if you're at Robert Moses, say, you will have a clear sight over the horizon to observe the, moon set and the, occultation of Spica. Well, let's cross our fingers.
Is that what purple one to the left?
Yes. Too bad. Can they do a laser pointer thing with the on here so that I can? Yeah, so this is the line for the moon set.
A lot of you guys go to Robert Moses, or any of those other places?
I've been once, and that was just for the northern lights, but here people. Still do though, right?
I've been going to Robert Moses,
Field two.
regularly.
Right, as long as you have the,
Yeah, you need a permit.
Yeah, you need a permit.
Yeah.
They gate off the entry, the parking.
is there more than just you there? I mean, because that would be my only concern, like, is that when you're out
On
there in the middle of the night
weekends-
by yourself?
On weekends, there's usually a few guys. Midweek, it's usually just me. Sometimes my wife drags along and sleeps in the car so she can call.
Yeah, that's why I was.
But there's no, I mean, there's,
The deer are the most dangerous thing there.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty quiet. I mean, there's fishermen.
Yeah.
But midweek, there's not a lot of fishing. I was there, when I was there a couple of nights ago, with them out. I think I was the only car in the
So
park.
what field do you go to? You go to
Two.
field two?
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's,
the one they make you go to.
Yeah, that's. They do, and if they see you have a telescope, they try not to.
Yeah.
Not that too bad.
yeah, I've always had a permit, but even, they don't usually ask, they don't often ask for the permit. If they see a telescope, they just kind of,
Just keep the.
Well, but they won't let you through the road,
Well, I was just, well, I haven't been out there yet. I mean, I got the.
oh, they have
permit
somebody
and stuff,
set up there?
Yeah, no, they have a guy set up with a car at a booth, you gotta show your permit. to
Oh,
get
really?
through
That's
the
new.
park.
I haven't been in a couple of years.
Yeah.
It used to be,
I think, I'm not sure if that's weekends, but for sure it's weekends.
Can you just pick anywhere on the parking lot?
Yes.
The field two, okay.
Yeah, and
So
it,
usually to the east of the parking lot,
yeah, because you don't have the pavilion.
not near the golf. course, so,
Well,
yeah.
but you also use the
Right.
bluff and brush
Yeah.
to block. the-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I used to find field 4 to be the best, but then now they kind of locked it off.
Yeah.
I feel four is not a solar lot.
Not a lot.
Around it, yes, they're gonna start. Yeah, I guess they've started work on the causeway. I haven't been out since they. I
They
waited a
started
day
last
ago,
night, yeah.
and I don't know if they have it closed off or it's just
Down one lane.
one lane. Yeah, it's not.
It'll be over in 2 weeks. Like this.
And it went down, they were out there pretty much.
I usually,
like 2 or 3.
well, I usually go around, 9-ish to 8:30 or 9 to get set up and Polaris.
But usually it's broadcast on yeah, going out.
Yeah.
Weeknights, not too many people talk about it. Yeah.
You know, I've been getting emails like the next morning, instead of today, I get it tomorrow. So. after the fact,
Well, I mean,
That's okay.
anytime, I mean, I'm being more than happy. Sometimes I go, kind of last minute, it looks like it's gonna be clear, but I'd be more than happy to send out.
Did you select the option for the charging guys, or do you get the daily badge?
I just think it's really.
Yeah.
Is that there's a
There's
little extra photography, right?
Well, there's a mailing list for the
Yeah.
Astro, from Astro, LIAP.
You have to be.
No, there's, hold on, what the hell is the group?
LIAP, Long Island Imaging.
I don't know, I get the emails, so I must have joined something.
It's not really, I think it's more just an email list, LIPA,
Yeah.
LIAP. LIAP. What does it stand for? Long Island Astrophotography. Yeah. So some other interesting things this month, July 29th and 30th, this is from earthsky.org. We're gonna have a conjunction or grouping of the moon near Mars and Aldebaran and Jupiter and the Pleiades. So if we got clear skies, it'll be a cool view looking east in the morning. On those mornings. And then we also have a meteor shower, the Delta Aquarids, July 30th at peaks. And it's going to be in the morning time. And you're going to want to look right under the front line of the Great Square of Pegasus for that. And a little bit above Fomalhaut, thank you. And that's it. That's July observing. Yeah, so hopefully we have clear skies and hopefully you get out and do some observing.
I'm surprised how clear it was tonight. It was supposed to be raining.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I came out, I'm like.
Turn off the
sun was
recording
clear.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Oh, I see.
It's still, yeah.
Stop recording.